In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. Two realms fashioned by the hand of God: the earth, habitation of man, and the sea, commanded to bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life. We have sailed our ships upon its surface, and at times peered perilously into its depths, yet the sea remains another world, strange, mysterious, foreboding to man. Yes, the sea is a strange and wonderful part of God's universe. But this is our world, a world of familiar sights and sounds. The ear tells us almost as much as the eye about the realm in which we live. But beneath the sea, man has been awed by an overwhelming silence. Here is a realm where his ear tells him nothing. With the advent of the 20th century, a wonderful new age was ushered in, illuminated by the feeble rays of the first practical electric lamp. The age of radio, with the development of the vacuum tube to amplify feeble currents, and the microphone, changing sound waves into electrical energy. With the development of the microphone, it was inevitable that before long, someone would devise a method of using the instrument to listen beneath the sea. Curiosity is well along the road to discovery, and the door to some of the strange secrets of the sea began to open. Though crude and hastily improvised, here was an instrument which could detect sounds from passing vessels, sounds beneath the sea. Yet that within itself wasn't too startling a discovery. We already knew that sound travels 5 times faster through water than through air, but if water is such a good conductor, why don't we hear these sounds from beneath the sea? Well, one reason is that the air-water boundary is almost as effective as a solid wall. But even more important, the human ear simply doesn't work well in water. For this realm, new ears are needed, ears expressly designed for operation below. It was this realization which led to the development of an instrument known as the hydrophone, an underwater microphone which detected sounds in the sea with a clarity never dreamed possible. Then one day in 1941, man's new knowledge of the sea went to war. This was sonar. Pulses of sound located enemy submarines and bounced back with a telltale echo to give the direction and range with amazing accuracy. War has always emphasized the strategic importance of the sea, and on the Atlantic seaboard, Chesapeake Bay was particularly vulnerable during World War II, inviting enemy thrust towards the nation's capital itself. It wasn't enough to patrol the area with the Navy's men of war. Danger lurked below the surface, and there was a real need for an underwater device that would warn of enemy submarines. So across the entrance to the bay, a battery of hydrophones was installed, terminating in a listening post on shore. On a control panel, flashing lights corresponding to the hydrophone locations enabled operators to plot the positions of moving ships. Churning propellers could be heard at the flip of a switch. Late one evening in the spring of 1942, the night operators were settling down for their lonely vigil when suddenly there was a flash of light on the panel, warning signals from those hydrophones at the entrance to the bay. But the sounds were unlike any ever heard before. Was this a new secret weapon of the enemy? Sound the alarm. Unidentified craft in the area. Eyes strained through the inky darkness of the blackout, but all without success. If the enemy were in the vicinity, he sailed a phantom fleet. About midnight, whatever it was left the area, and soon the panel was dark. But only for the night. For each evening, the same disturbed, and always at midnight, the same report. Sounds unidentified. The military turned to the scientist for help. Research and investigation followed under the tightest of wartime censorship. Then at last the answer came with the clatter of the teletype in the listening station. Disregard unusual hydrophone signals. We are advised sounds made by schools of fish known as croakers. Fish that talk. The cause of one of the most baffling mysteries of the war was just the lowly croaker, the heart of Chesapeake Bay's great fishing industry. After the war was over, the story of sounds in the sea began to be told, and some underwater research scientists from the Moody Institute of Science, after many long hours of planning and building special equipment, embarked in a former Navy landing craft for areas where underwater sounds had been reported. A thrilling adventure was in store, an exploration into that other realm that wasn't so silent after all. No sooner had we dropped anchor than the look box was loaded into a skiff and a spot was selected for our operations below the surface. Meanwhile, on the landing craft, the Baker flag is hoisted, a warning to all ships in the area that a diving operation is underway. Every member of the crew has a job to do. The underwater camera is made ready for operation, and preparations are made to record the sounds from the sea on a magnetic tape recorder. Dressing the diver is a very important job. Diving safety is a matter of thinking ahead, of taking the necessary precautions for what might happen below. Everything must fit properly. A slip up above could mean death down below. And now it's time for those two vital connections to the outside world, the air hose and the lifeline, containing the communication to the diving telephone. Now the diver is dressed. The tender signals that it's time to go. The faceplate is closed, and it's time to reach for the intake valve. Air hisses into the helmet. The exhaust valve is opened, 1 1/2 turns. The diving suit is inflated now. It's heavy, and it's awkward. And as you go over the side, you hang on to the ladder with all of your might. A fall here could mean disaster. The sudden change in pressure crushing the diver's body up into the helmet with all the force of a battering ram. Water splashes against the faceplate. You're almost afraid to take a breath. Then the load is gone. What a relief. The last rung of the ladder. You reach for the descending line. Then let it slide between your fingers as the real descent begins into that green world of water. The weight of the equipment pulls you downward, and the pressure of the water becomes greater, squeezing your body like some great clammy hand. Then suddenly, the bottom, and you're there, in the world beneath the sea, shades of blue and green, with here and there a splash of more vivid color. The bolder denizens of the deep stare curiously into the helmet faceplate. Then there's a flurry of small fish banding together to confuse the hungry predator. And you look with amazement as this example of underwater survival and protection unfolds. Uh-oh. Here's where you're glad you brought that knife along. The sea is found to be a realm of contrasts. Not far from the shark is a peaceful marine garden where the underwater currents perpetuate the rhythmic grace of the foliage of the sea. But the beauty of the underwater realm has long been established. What about the sounds in the sea? Porpoises. For years, scientists believed that if there were sounds beneath the sea, there would be no ear to hear them. But just behind the porpoise's eye is a tiny opening no larger than a toothpick, his auditory canal. Ears especially designed to work underwater, detecting sounds far above the range of human ears. In waters along the rocky shorelines of the world live millions upon millions of tiny, snapping shrimp. They're seldom seen because they hide in the rocky crevices on the bottom, or under dock pilings, or along coral reefs. Sometimes they can even be found in the shell of an abalone. The snapping shrimp is a tiny crustacean, much smaller than his seafood cousin. In fact, he'll average less than an inch in length. One of the shrimp's claws is larger than the other, and it's the noise-producing organ. It cocks open and snaps shut, producing a characteristic clicking sound. In a normal population of these creatures, the individual clicks merge into a continuous crackling din. When darkness descends upon the sea, the underwater realm becomes even more strange and mysterious. Many of the underwater animals produce their sounds only at night, and this proved to be the necessary incentive to descend once again into the blackness of the night sea. While such daytime noisemakers as the porpoise doze peacefully, nighttime sounds begin in the deep. During the evening hours, the hydrophone picks up sounds as yet unidentified. Evening sounds, they're called by puzzled underwater research men. Weird, unearthly noises welling up from that other realm, adding new mystery to the world around us. The world about which Job wrote more than 3,000 years ago. Ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee, or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not in all these that the hand of the Lord hath wrought this, in whose hand is the soul of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind?